Students, most welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Krishnendu Ray, teaching in the Department of Ancient Indian History and Culture, University of Calcutta. Today, we are concerned generally with economic history of India from earliest times to 1707 AD. Particularly, the topic that we are going to understand is dealt with economic conditions of North India during the post-Gupta period. Now, what are the main objectives that we are going to learn from this module? These are concerned with number one, agrarian form of production, non-agrarian form of production, trade and commerce, consumption, media of exchange, transportation. Now, first of all, let me introduce you to the period, that is the post-Gupta period. What is post-Gupta period? Generally, after the fall of the Gupta Empire, the period that starts and ends with the coming of Islam, that is Delhi Sultanate rulers, is generally called post-Gupta or early medieval period. Recently, this nomenclature has also been questioned. It is neither medieval because it is early, it is not early because it is medieval. So, where we stand, sometimes it has also been called post-classical, whatever the nomenclature or tyranny of labels, quote unquote. But the fact is, during this phase that is generally located between 600 to 1300, this period witnessed politically, economically, socially, culturally, innumerable changes, mostly at regional levels and also at local levels. Now, politically, we find the period to have witnessed a number of powers, regional powers, Paramaras, Palas, Rashtrakutas, Cholas, so many powers, North India and South India. Each and every power tried to consolidate their power and authority territorially. And in that connection, they encouraged or supported religious authorities by granting them lands and other properties. At the same time, they also encouraged trading exchange activities so that they could earn taxes and other, or rather commercial levies, or they could in this way strengthen their economic base. So, particularly the period in North India witnessed innumerable economic developments. So, we are concerned today in this module with the economic conditions of North India in ancient times, which was known as Aryabhatta, North India, during the post-Gupta period. This is the post-Gupta period ranging generally from 600 to 1300. Let us see what are those remarkable changes. Historical phenomena and archaeological artifacts point to remarkable developments such as land grantee Swami, the employer of the land, enjoyer of the land, Bujjamanako, and the tiller who cultivated the land, that is Krishyamanako or Karshako, related to the agrarian sector. On the other hand, weaving, cloth, oil production, oilmen, tailiko are related to non-agrarian production sector of the economy, exchange their products with others within and outside the country, encouraged overland and overseas connections, developed conveyances. Naturally, they wanted their goods to be moved from one place to another, and they used conveyances, used different watercrafts as well as, that is, boat big or small. Usually they used boats. Particularly in this connection, we should remember two major things. Economic productions or economic activities may mostly depend on two major pillars: agrarian production as well as non-agrarian production. So far as agrarian production is concerned, we are basically essentially concerned with land. Therefore, we must have an idea about land types. What are those? First of all, land classified according to fertility and cultivation. Other criteria: the growth of crops on land, the quality of the seeds used for cultivation, and the number of plowing. How many times plowing was made? On the basis of that, land was also classified. Now, land types. A literary text, Lekha Paddhati, it's an early medieval text, points out Samakara, that is tax-paying land; Pachila, soft land; Udakhila, the land not under cultivation; Khila, the land not under cultivation for 3 years; Gochara, grazing field. The Pala Garavalo epigraphic records also provide Uddeso, highland; Usaro, barren land; Talo, lowland; Pasana, rocky land; Khetra, Sakedara, land situated to water; grazing land; and habitation land. Further classification according to the character of the land: quality, fertility or unfertile, fallow land and saline. Accordingly, lands were classified. According to U.N. Ghoshal, another noted historian, early Indian historian, 3 classes of cereals, such as those grown in pods, samidhanna, owned grains, sukadhanna, and rice of different varieties. According to A.K. Mujumdar, cotton, sugarcane, oilseeds, bajra, kodrava, indigo, ginger, turmeric, etc. According to Bengal inscriptions like Anolia, that is Lakonchanas, another noted inscription, paddy was eagerly prayed for. Shadukti Karnamrita of Siddhartha Das, another early medieval text, from Bengal, refers to sali rice, sugarcane field, etc., etc. Agrarian knowledge. In this way, human beings gained agrarian knowledge, agrarian experiences, which they had preserved in certain such literary texts. Let us see those agrarian knowledge. The literary text Brikshayurveda contains information about the cure of the diseases of plants, how to cure the plants of their diseases so that they could get handsome crops in return. The Krishi Parashara, another important Krishi text on agriculture, informs us about how to apply manure, cure the cattle of their diseases, to cultivate according to seasonal climate. According to Nandi Purana, giving agricultural knowledge is a meritorious deed. This point to be noted. Here we find that agricultural knowledge was so important, so sanctified, so sacred, that if one gave this knowledge or imparted this knowledge to someone else, he earned merit, religious merit, punya. So this was their experience or agrarian knowledge. Now, in association with agriculture, we find another important thing, that is irrigation. A good number of references to water bodies or sources in support of the process of cultivation. These are wells, tanks, canals, reservoirs, etc. But it is to be noted, according to B.D. Chattopadhyay, whether these water sources were actually used for irrigating the fields. Remember these things. This is very important. We find many references to water bodies that I have mentioned, but it is very, very important to take note of the fact that whether those were used for irrigation or not. Mere mention of these water bodies does not necessarily lead one to assume that these were used for irrigation. So this is very pertinent question that Professor Chattopadhyay has raised. Now in this connection, another important factor to be taken note of. In connection with the geographical context, Vishwamohan Jha, another noted historian scholar, Vishwamohan Jha, the geographical context, quote unquote, of the water sources to be understood. In which geographical context water sources have been mentioned, this context has also to be taken note of so that we can understand its utility for irrigation. In connection with the geographical context, Jha draws our attention to the fact Malwa region is geographically characterized by wells, tanks, step wells, etc. as found in inscriptions of the Poromaros. Water wells, oroghattas, were used for irrigating the field. Noinjot Lahiri points out the use of providing the required use of khetrali, providing the required water for irrigation in the field in Assam during the pre-Ahom rulers. Now, what were the crafts that people had produced? Textile goods like dukula, patrona, khoumo. Chitralekha Gupta points out a weaver's colony to the east of a donated land in Assam. It means there were weavers and they had colonized, they had settled in a particular area. The Paschimba copper plate, another copper plate from Bengal, early medieval Bengal, of the 10th century, Chandra King Sri Chandra refers to a group of diverse craftsmen like blacksmith, leather worker, brazier, carpenter, architect, etc. Shadukti Karnamrita refers to the engagement of poor Brahmin ladies in cotton carding. Lekha Paddhati, another important early medieval text, informs us that the village ironsmith manufactured iron implements like plough, hoe, spade, etc. etc. The Agni Purana mentions a long list of gems like diamond, pearl, ruby, vaidurja, emerald, etc., which were analyzed. In other words, work in such precious stones was done. Carpentry is revealed by boat building industry. The Charjapadas, another important early medieval Bengal text, reveal that the board was used in early medieval Bengal. Metals like iron was used. Iron implements like plough, hoe, spade, etc., as I have mentioned you. Brazier workers, brass workers, image makers, bell metal workers, etc. Other crafts like stone cutting, pottery making, carpentry, boat skin like goat skin, buffalo skin, utensils like lamp, cooking ware, ornaments like necklace, headgears, etc. etc. Students just notice how many different types of non-agrarian products were produced by human beings during this period. And so many workers were there, naturally. So, craftsmen, how they defended or safeguarded their professions. Naturally, they formed organizations. Let us see the scenario of the craftsmen's organization. What is that? According to an 11th century Bengal epigraph, the artisans of Borindro, not Bengal, not then Bangladesh, were headed by the Ronoko Shulopani, who was the crest jewel, quote unquote, of the Borindro Artisans Association. Another 11th century Pormona inscription refers to the fact that the association of the oil millers was under one's headship, Toiliko Pottokila. The craftsmen to have organized themselves as Sreni or Goshti. The professional organization was headed by a master craftsman. Ranavir Chakraborty, another historian, noted historian from JNU, draws our attention to the 20 leaders of oilmen, 14 leaders of garland makers, many other occupational groups under their leaders. Organizations also exercised executive and judicial powers, quote unquote. Remember one thing, all these non-agrarian producers, craftsmen, organized themselves in order to not only safeguard their activities, production activities, but also to carry out their professional activities safely. Next, what we see. Naturally, when production increased, naturally the question arises how to exchange it. And this is how trade and commerce, the concept of trade and commerce emerges. Let us see the scenario. And in this connection, first of all, we have to take note of the agency, that is merchant, who conducted trading activities. Therefore, we have started with merchants. Various types of merchants are known to us. These are such as Sreshti, very rich trader; Sharthabaho, caravan merchant; Vanjaro, peddler; merchants also known as oilman, toiliko; perfume dealer, kondhiko; betel nut seller, pogi; salt trader, nemoko bonijo; sugar merchant, godiko; retail sellers, probonijo; horse traders, Hedoviko; ship merchants, Novittako, etc. A 13th century inscription from Gujarat refers to dealers in betel leaves. Tambulikos, mobile merchants, Banjakaros or Banjaros. Remember, today also we find such and such traders. Traders traded in different items. So, what we get next? Naturally, they also organize themselves for the sake of their trading activities. What we get the scenario? The early 6th century copperplate inscriptions from Sanjeli in Gujarat point to the existence of the association of both local and non-local merchants at Vadrapali, that is Bharpali in Gujarat. According to Albironi, sailors, fowlers, jugglers, showmakers, etc. from their organizations. Lalanji Gopal informs us of a number of mercantile organizations such as the organizations of potters, kumbhakaros, etc. V.K. Jain draws our attention to such trading corporations as Sreni, Pugo, Virata, Noigamo, Shangha. Hemchandra refers to the following mercantile associations: Shanghata, Samuho, Mandalam, Samudaya, Gana, Brata, etc. Now, they traded, right? But in this connection, we have two sectors: inland trade, overseas trade. First of all, we take note of inland trade. And inland trade in certain goods. Therefore, we should concentrate first on trading goods. The Agni Purana refers to the fact that the merchants dealt in Shukhodhanna and Samidhanna. V.K. Jain draws our attention to a number of epigraphic records like the Ahara, Rajar, etc., which show that levies were collected from cereals. According to Jain, texts like Deshinamomala point out that merchants dealt in rice, dhanno. The inscriptions of the Sheno rulers of early medieval Bengal mention the two cash crops such as coconut and betel nut. So these were certain trading goods. Then, how these were networked in connection with trading exchanges? Let us see that. According to Vishwamohan Jha, the references to trading goods like fish, clarified butter, vegetables, etc. would indicate the local network of trade. Trade in liquor, oil, salt, grass might have been regional in nature. The references to sandalwood, spices, etc. might indicate trans-regional trade in such articles. So these were the networks. Naturally, these were moved along routes. Therefore, we should concentrate now on land routes. According to Albironi, that Kanauj was connected by a number of roads. Kanauj is a famous UP region, northwestern UP. According to the lexical works like Vaijayanti, Abhidhamma Ratnamala, etc., Deshinamomala, the people used small road, high road, etc. The streets of the villages were connected with high roads. In the inscriptions of early medieval Bengal, high roads are mentioned in connection with the boundaries of the land donated. Water routes. The Chorjapadas refers to the fact that boats were used for carrying goods. Not only carrying goods, but also the people. It is not unlikely that the boats were also used for carrying merchandise. Referring to the Ukti Bhakti Vyakarana, Prakarana, Lalanji Gopal informs us that rivers in Uttar Pradesh were used for transport. Transport of people, not only people, but also goods. The term Sha No Naukavataka from a Gadavala inscription, any army point out that the fact that the state owned boats which the people could hire for by paying the required fare. Conveyances, how the goods were transported from one place to another. That is the point, that is the question of conveyance. Animals like buffaloes, bullocks, etc. as conveyances for the transport of commodities. According to Lalanji Gopal, conveyances were also provided for the transport of trading goods. That is, someone provided conveyances. It is also seen today, someone have trucks for goods carriage. They provide their trucks and in return they charge fare. In this same way, they also provided conveyances for the transport of the goods. Now, in connection with the sea trade, we find that two termini, Basra, Siraf, or Al-Fustat in the west and the China borders in the east. Following the sea trade, merchants from Siraf, Oman, Baghdad came to the western seaboard. Ranveer Chakraborty draws our attention to the fact that the Jewish merchants were present in Malabar in the 11th century CE. What we get next? According to Ranveer Chakraborty, trading exchanges were done at, these are trading centers, that is markets. Mandapika. According to Chakraborty, there were Shulka Mandapikas in Gujarat. Some Mandapikas were located in urban centers like Siadoni, Bilhari, Central India, Anhilewado, Gujarat. So these trading centers have been described as the Pattana Mandapika. Other Mandapikas were also called local Mandapikas. Goods, that is export, that those were exported to other countries. The export items included aloe wood, coconut, coir, spices, grains, textiles, elephants, ivory, leopard skin, gold, silver, copper, sugar, pepper, ginger, sandalwood, fruits, fur garments, etc. Now, let us see next import goods. Incense, copper, lead, salt, onion, dates, ivory, dye, horses. Import goods from China included silk, cloth, well-known Chinese silk called Chinang Suko, iron, tin, gold, silver. Import items from Southeast Asia, camphor, porcelain ware, spikenard, aloe wood, etc. Naturally, these export and import items were exchanged through ports. Both on the east coast and west coast, we have a number of ports. Let us see that. West coast ports, Somnath, Khambaya, Sthanaka, Sanjana, Surparaka, Simulla, Chaul to the south of Mumbai, Chandrapura, Sindapur near Goa, Mangalapuru or Mangalore, and Kulamali, that is Koilan. East coast ports, Mamullapuram, Nagapattinam, Visakhapatnam, Kaviripattinam, Tamraliptu, Samandar. Media of exchange. How the trading activities were facilitated. In that connection, media, that is coins, were used. Different coins, different media we see to have been used for facilitating the trading activities. Now, see, cowrie shells called Kapardaka used. According to B.N. Mukherjee, another noted Indologist and historian, early Indian historian, B.N. Mukherjee, silver currency was used in the southeastern part of Bangladesh. The 12th century epigraphic records from Odisha and Bengal show the use of churni, dust currency, quote unquote, also medium in trading exchanges. The gold dust was also used in the Gurjara Pratihara kingdom in North India. References to the gold coins of the Chandelas, Kalachuris are available. References to the copper and silver coins of the Gadavalus, Chahumanos are also known. Students, the discussion that I have made in connection with an understanding of the economic conditions of North India during the post-Gupta period so far makes us aware of the fact that the people during this period were involved in economic activities, both non-agrarian and agrarian. In connection with their agrarian production, what they did, they classified lands, accordingly they produced agrarian goods, they gathered agrarian experiences, they preserved those agrarian experiences. In that connection, we have a number of textual sources also. And you know, in another module, you have also known that people always have preserved their knowledges for later generations. In this case also, this has happened. Those people have preserved their experiences in Krishi Parashara, Vrikshayurveda, which we are using today in connection with agrarian production. So this is how we come to know of their agrarian activities or experiences. Similarly, they also were involved in non-agrarian production, in which case they produced many different types of non-agrarian goods, iron and other metalworks and other things. So this is how they completed their agrarian and non-agrarian activities. But in that connection, the products they made, when they made huge products, surplus products, they wanted to exchange with others in order to earn some money or wealth in return. And in that connection, they were involved in trade and commercial exchanges with not only inland countries but also other countries. So in that connection, naturally they used water routes, land routes and conveyances as well as watercrafts. Particularly, they also used media of exchanges in order to facilitate their trading activities. And in that connection, we find them to have used silver currency, silver coins, copper coins, as well as churni, that is dust, in small currency, cowries. Even today also we find cowries, but not as the media of exchange, but some religious purposes cowries are used. But this is their media scenario that they used for facilitating their trading activities, and this is how they led their economic life in North India particularly. Now let us come to the last part of the lecture, that is what we get in nutshell. It appears that the early Indian people were involved in the agrarian and non-agrarian production of varieties of goods. In connection with agrarian production, they developed their agrarian knowledge related to the land, etc. They were involved in wide networks of trade and commerce, both inland and overseas. They developed the centers for trading exchanges. This is how we come to know about North Indian economic conditions during the post-Gupta period. If you want to know more, then please go to e-text and with a reading list. Thank you all.